In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your dream physique if you're in your 40s and 50s. So today I'm going to be talking to my dad, who is 52 years old and was able to lose 28 pounds in the last 90 days following my 2-day per week minimalist training system and my flexible dieting approach. So tell me what life was like before, internally, like your personal experience with life, like also emotionally, and also externally, in what other people could see and what you could see in the mirror.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we have to dial it back quite a few years, probably. As you know, obviously, I came from Europe, and in Europe, I lived there for 27 years, and I had a consistent weight of 72 kilos, which right now I don't really know what that is in pounds. And, I was always very, very much into clothes, as you know as well. I like nice clothes and stuff, and I was able to wear those, certainly even the first years when I came to Canada. Over time I saw that kind of change, especially when I had like nice form-fitting clothes or whatever. I was all of a sudden not able to wear them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And although, when you get older, it becomes a little less important, wearing nice clothes, I find personally anyways. It was always kind of eating in the back of my mind, kind of like, fuck, I can't wear this shirt anymore because I got a belly now, and, like I don't want to over exaggerate, obviously. It's not like I was that big, but it was, to me, having been a sort of consistent, sort of slender, certain physique, I was used to it, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of weird. And like I said, it just always felt like, it's kind of sloppy, it felt sloppy. So it kind of like a sense of like embarrassment almost. And later on, I almost started to see it as a weakness in a sense. Now, I never worked out before. Like I did it when I was 16 for maybe like, I don't know, a short year.
Yeah.
And then some things happened and didn't continue on with that. We won't get into that. But anyhow, so, to me, like working out, like I kind of always equated it with a certain culture that was certainly not something that I identified myself with.
Yeah, very vain, right?
Well, very vain, but also like, like when you think about working out, like often, like especially back in those days when I went to the gym, the two gym owners were they were serious bodybuilders.
Yeah.
They were bobsledding champions and bodybuilders, which apparently goes hand in hand. And these guys were huge. Like absolutely huge. So back in those days, it was and especially in Holland where I lived, right? It was, most people didn't really work out. So
yeah, so working out was basically automatically associated with being a bodybuilder, like a big meathead,
like a jock,
steroid head.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Sure.
So I had no interest in that, and I didn't I just never gave it any thought. But yeah, I mean, I just definitely I think it's easier to say what it did mentally, emotionally, all that sort of stuff, more after the point where I started working out, right? Because then all of a sudden you're starting to feel a difference, and you're starting to, have a reference point as to what does it do for you, and what didn't it do for you before, like not doing it before, you know what I mean? So, definitely I think, like we discussed before, I think it gives you a sense of like feeling good in your body, like feeling stronger too, like externally, what I do notice or did notice was that I would wear clothes that would disguise a little bit, you know what I mean? That wouldn't, like shirts that wouldn't show, obviously, that you have a bit of a belly, so that's kind of what I can say about that.
And so if we backtrack to like right before you started your journey, right? Because obviously you started working out about a year ago.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. And then, but your weight loss transformation was like really within the last like 3 months, right?
Yeah. So the whole thing about the working out, so obviously I saw you, right? Like, like I saw your whole journey, and I was pretty closely, involved with your journey, certainly up to like, say, I don't know, 14 years, with this whole soccer thing, right? Yeah. So we went through that whole process together, and then I saw what you did with it and where you ended up with. I'm like, holy shit, look at this kid. What the fuck, you know? And, you know, that's when I thought, like, well, maybe I should be trying that too, you know? And for me, it was very much revolved on, or very much focused on my stomach, you know? And I thought that, you know, working out, making like tighter muscles in the stomach area would fix this problem. But, you know, obviously, you know, I tried it for about a year and noticed very strong fluctuations in weight, and especially when we went to Europe, for example, in the summer. We were there a long time. We ate a lot of food, you know, enjoyed the food there, and all of a sudden I get on the weighing scale. I'm like, holy shit, I'm 212 pounds. This is ridiculous. My mom, who hadn't seen me in many years, telling me straight up, like, you know, Zadok, you're too heavy. You're too big.
Yeah. I remember
She didn't mince any words.
Yeah.
Right. And so looking at all that, and you know, like I tried it with the 1 year of lifting, and I think I saw some muscle difference for sure, but the stomach wasn't going anywhere. Right. And so that's when and then we talked about it many, many times, you and I, you know, and you kept drilling it into me, dude, you got to start tracking. You got to start tracking. I looked at you tracking. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be doing that. I'm not going to weigh my food. This is ridiculous.
And you thought that the belly was just a result of like eating too much in your sort of portions, right?
Yeah, I thought my intakes per meal were too big, you know, like especially dinner meals would sometimes be massive. You know, and I could really feel it in my stomach. Now, important to mention perhaps is, of course, the fact that I'm a vegetarian and pretty much have been that my whole life. So there's something with that as well, you know, whether there is the like too high of a fiber intake or something where you feel the bloatedness. So I always kind of struggled with that part. But yeah, anyhow, so, you know, like I always looked at you, and I saw how difficult it was sometimes when we traveled, you know, going out for dinner, you know, like you having to be careful with what you eat or choosing to be careful with what you eat. And I fully understand why now. So, you know, at some point I just said, fuck it, I'm going to try it. You know, I got to try it. And I was shocked because I couldn't believe measuring some of the stuff and looking on the labels and seeing what I was putting in my body and how quickly that calorie count goes up when you're not even filling yourself. You're just snacking or whatever. Right. So that was a really big realization.
And that moment when you said fuck it and decided to try it, to start like getting serious about like your calorie intake and tracking your food.
Yeah.
What was it? What were you feeling internally, and what were you seeing externally?
I was just disappointed. You know, I was disappointed because, you know, like having the working out. You know, like I enjoy doing it, but I won't lie. Sometimes it's a bitch, right? Yeah. Like sometimes, especially like if you don't keep proper routine or whatever, or not proper sleep schedule, and you have to do the workout, and it's like 300 and whatever pounds off the ground, Romanian deadlift, you know, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And so I'm like, geez, I did all this work for 1 year, and my belly is still there, you know. And I saw it also in some of the pictures when we were in Mexico earlier this year. You know, I saw it in the picture. I'm like, geez, you know, like that. I look kind of bloated.
And then you just decided, like, I want to get serious about this.
I'm like, might as well give it a try, you know. Okay. Why not, you know? Okay. And so I was actually surprised at how, you know, relatively easy it is once you start getting a grip on, you know, what's going on, and especially if you're okay eating the same things like I tend to do. You know, I eat the same lunch every day. Dinner is a bit more variable. Snack, dessert, or whatever, tends to be pretty consistent. So, you know, it's not as bad at all. And the great thing is that you can still eat certain things that you thought you can absolutely not eat anymore, like a chocolate bar or a bowl of ice cream or something, you know, which I tend to enjoy thoroughly. Well, so
speaking of the system, right? What were your main concerns about it, and why did you choose to do it anyways?
Well, the main concern, like I just said, is watching you not choosing to eat certain things that we would eat. For example, when we were in Europe, you know, we we would have particular food, or we would go out, and you would kind of stick to your own thing. And I thought, geez, like, I don't want to be doing that. It's certainly not at my age now, but it turns out that it's really not that bad. And it's also not, I noticed also that, like if you, like, let's say you stick to a pretty tight routine for the week, and then on the weekend you do something different, might slow you down slightly, but it's not terrible, right? It's not like all of a sudden you gain 5 pounds and it's going to stay, it's, so that was really nice to see that it has some flexibility to it.
Mm-hmm. And you had some specific concerns about like the nutrition, right? In terms of like, you felt as though like you couldn't eat some of the foods that you previously enjoyed eating.
Yes.
You also didn't feel like a sort of uptight structure would fit into your lifestyle.
That's exactly it. Yeah, especially me being vegetarian, right? So I already have to, not that I really do. I've never really paid attention to what should I replace meat with, because I simply just haven't eaten meat. So there's nothing to replace. I just eat what I eat. But yeah, I was definitely thinking like, geez, do I have to now start doing certain things that I'm not used to doing? And that wasn't the case. I still eat what I enjoy eating, and and I find too, is that like I'm obviously eating less, but I find that I have more energy, which is interesting too. And it made that sent me on a whole other trip, because, the other day I smoked a little weed and and I was sitting by myself, and I'm eating this chocolate bar, and I'm thinking like, what if I drop even the chocolate bar, what if I drop the sugar out of it completely? And like that is, that's an interesting thought, to take it another step further, and just say like, what can I cut and replace with something that's maybe, less sugary, and
And what were your main concerns about the training system that had you working out just twice a
Oh
week?
yeah, I had my biggest concern definitely. Well, first of all, I thought like, geez, am I going to be able to do that at my age? Does it make sense? That was a more sort of instant concern, but then also seeing some of the exercises you did, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that with my back. Like I had some pretty, like over the years, I had like, waves of fairly bad back pain. And, like I had the MRIs and all that done, and doctors say like, oh, you have mechanical back pain, whatever that means. But essentially, I think what they're trying to say is we don't know, but it's just wear and tear, and that makes sense. Over the years, a lot of stupid lifting, of things that are just too heavy for one person to lift, that kind of stuff, or bad posture, maybe, things like that. So the back thing was a real big concern for me, because like, how can I possibly lift that kind of weight and not screw up my back even more? And the irony is that I ended up having less back pain. So that was pretty great side effect. I do a lot of like renovation stuff right now, and I'm on my feet all day long. And at the end of the day, sometimes depending on what I've been doing, like I might feel some soreness in the back. But in the past, I would have that. I would go to bed, have pain in bed, and then wake up with pain, and have the next day full of pain still. And that's completely gone now. Like, especially like I might be a little sore in the morning. I take a shower, end it with a cold shower, boom, it's gone. I'm ready to go again. Yeah.
And you're doing a lot of the exercises that most people think cause back pain, like
that's right.
deadlifts and squats.
Yeah, that's right.
And those are actually the movements that likely are what reduced your back pain.
I think so. Because what I said earlier was the whole thing about like how you feel different in your body. Like feeling stronger in your body is obviously a big positive, right? And so, and I think you feel that in the core. If you feel that in your core very much so, like having a much stronger core. And I think your core is everything, really. Like whatever you do, like whether you sit, stand, or walk, whatever, your core is the key. So I think that's a very big bonus.
If you're a busy guy in your 30s, 40s, or 50s and want to transform your body with minimal time commitment, pick up my free minimalist muscle building masterclass. It's the first link in my description. Like, what were the benefits of you given your lifestyle, being able to achieve this result while only working out twice a week?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have done it if it was more than 2 times. Three, I think even 3 times already is like, especially right now, right? I mean, it's like this year has been a bit unusual for me. I've been away from home a lot doing renovations. Like I'll be gone for like 3 days, 4 days. Before the first half of this year, I was driving back and forth every day, like leaving early and coming home very late. So there was very little room for me to be doing it. So squeezing in more than 2 would have been impossible. And quite frankly, it wouldn't have been appealing to me, like it's not, like I don't want to act like, every day I'm like, yay, it's a workout time. You know what I mean? Like you do it because it's good for you. And sometimes the things that are good for you are not always something that you enjoy the most or whatever. Some of the healthiest foods are also not the most enjoyable, right? Yeah. So yeah, no, I think the 2-day thing is absolutely key. There's no denying that.
And how was that able to impact your ability to stay consistent and sustain the approach? It's like, I don't really think you've missed any workouts, right?
No. I'll just push it up or down or whatever. Like for example, last week, I just planned it in such a way where I did one workout on was it Friday? No, it was Saturday actually, and then I did the next one already on Monday, just because it worked out that way. You know what I mean? Like it's like I like the fact that within the 7 days, you can kind of like, you don't have to say I'm going to do Monday, Friday like that. I tend to want to do that. And I'm very much, a routine based person. So I kind of, beat myself up over it sometimes if I don't make it. But the beauty is that you have 7 days. I mean, technically you have as many days, of course, but it's technically speaking 7 days. And within those 7 days, you can shovel it around, and you can shovel around very easily. If it becomes more than 2, 3, or 4, then
less flexibility.
Yeah, less, especially with the resting time, right? Like like you don't want to go Monday and then again Tuesday. That
yeah, won't be recovered.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that works out really well.
Cool. And what would you say are the main things that you previously believed to be true about fitness and improving your body that were proved incorrect by my system?
Well, I mean, what we just discussed, I guess, right? I mean, before I started this, I was doing a little bit of like just push-ups, that kind of stuff. And I was doing it practically every day, right? Until you said, like, dude, what are you doing? Yeah. Why are you doing this every day? And so I thought that you did have to do that as much as possible. That made a lot of sense to me. And like, I actually kind of didn't believe it in the beginning that you could do it only 2 days a week. I thought that was bullshit. I'm like, no way, man. 2 days. Yeah.
Most people do.
Yeah. It's really strange, actually. It's, like, because like, it's really only an hour to an hour for me. Like I take a bit longer than you sometimes, just, like sometimes I take a little bit more time in between sets, but it really is. And you can do it in an hour and 15, at the most hour and a half, which is ridiculous. When you think about it. Yeah. To get that much result from so little time is, that's quite special.
And was there anything nutrition related that you previously believed that you had to do? Like you mentioned, you thought you had to cut out certain foods, right? And you couldn't eat.
Yeah, big one, I think, was the whole, like, meat, right? I mean, we've had that discussion many times, like the fact that I don't eat meat. I thought, like, wow, I'm probably screwed. Like, like if I'm going to be doing this, not eating meat, it's probably not going to lead to anything. I definitely did think that, but I don't think that's an issue either.
And you mentioned that you're still able to eat certain foods that you ate before that you thought were the cause of your having a belly and being overweight.
Yeah, no, it clearly is just a simple mathematical equation here. Like it's just adding those calories. Like I even thought, like, because remember we had those arguments. I'm like, dude, you're full of shit. Like, yeah, like my stomach has expanded. It's like the stomach wall has just expanded out because of the amount of food, and probably even drinking. Back in the days, drinking lots of beer or whatever, that kind of stuff. Like, and then once it's expanded, it stretches. Then how the hell are you going to stretch it back to become tight again? I thought that was an issue. But the irony is I just changed pants before this interview, and I put my belt on, and I was thinking about it actually because the belt that you have at your gym that I use all the time. I remember when I started and I had a really hard time getting the pin in the second hole. I had to really suck it in, and now I can put it in the fourth hole. But ironically, I just put my belt on my jeans right now. I'm like, Jesus, I need to poke some more holes.
There you go, right? So
which goes to show you how long I've been that heavier weight, like many, many years now.
And like, it wasn't really about cutting out certain foods. It wasn't about any of that sort of shit. You simply just had to put yourself in a calorie deficit. And you were able to still eat the foods you like.
It's just being mindful. It's just being mindful of what you eat, and and just just not overdoing it. Like I had a tendency to sometimes, grab a pack of cookies and not have one cookie, but have like 6. That's ridiculous. And the same thing with other sort of sweets. And now I understand how quickly that adds up on your count. It's quite dramatic, So that's a big one.
And so what tips do you have for men who are a little bit older, have a bit more of a busy schedule, who are also trying to transform their bodies? Like what key tips and lessons have you taken away from your transformation that could also be applicable to a guy who is a bit older?
Just give it a try. Just give it a try. It's really not that crazy, like even like one of the other things actually, which I didn't mention is like I saw some of your videos obviously, and I saw the weight that you had on these barbells and things, and I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. That's crazy. There's no way I can do that, and there's no way I want to do that. But it turns out that that's not necessarily what you have to do. Like you might end up there, but you can you clearly build some muscle with lesser weights. So it's not as intimidating.
Like you're not going to sneeze and reach that point all of a sudden. It's a progressive journey.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So you start where you are, and then work your way up.
That's it. And I mean, and especially for older men, like maybe you're not into the whole gym culture, which I am not either, obviously.
Neither am I.
And yeah, exactly. And so, like if you have some room in your house, you get yourself a very basic set, because what you have is very basic. It's just,
power rack,
it's not fancy machines or whatever. Yeah. And so, anyone of an older age can certainly afford that, and it doesn't even take up that much space. So
all you really need is like a power rack, chin up bar, some like a barbell with some plates, a bench, and then maybe some adjustable dumbbells, and that's really all you need.
That's
Most
it.
people have.
That's all I've been using.
It's all it's all you've been using.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think that's something I thought about too. I think the whole food thing, right? Because I think most men my age will have some kind of belly, or maybe more than that. And I think it all depends what your relationship with food is, why are you eating what you're eating, and how much of what you're eating. I think that is definitely very important, but I think this process might even help with that too, right? Because I'm kind of referring to more psychological angles here, right? Like people eat too much because of, some deeper underlying issues often. This process could potentially help with that too. By becoming aware of seeing what you're doing, right? And then by seeing that, you probably go like, oh, geez, and that might change your mindset a little bit. So I think, but I mean, like for those who don't have that, it should be really quite easy to adjust your eating habits. Yeah. And like I said, you don't even have to adjust them that much. So it's just being diligent and routine.
Yeah. So fast forward to now. You've been weight training for about a year, and
year and a half,
and then in the past 90 days, you lost about 28 pounds or so. What is your life like now from an external standpoint in terms of what you can see in the mirror, what others can see? And also, how do you feel, how's your personal experience of life emotionally now? And how do you feel within your own body?
Yeah, I mean, like if you obviously feel good, you feel there is a sense of confidence. I don't want to over exaggerate that. I'm 52 years old, so I mean, I'm not as outwardly focused anymore, right? Like I said earlier, like wearing nice clothes is not that important, not that much of an importance to me anymore. But it's definitely you just feel better, you carry yourself differently, and I think anything you do with any slight form of success is always a form of accomplishment, right? Definitely, like one of the things that I didn't mention earlier that I would notice, like I like hiking, walking, hiking, whatever you want to call it. Like hiking, I consider more like going like through like some terrain up and down, and one of the things I noticed doing it before, like especially if there was a little bit of weed involved, you would get you have more of a body sense, like you're very more aware of your physique, your physical state. And I always felt that belly, it was always there. I'm like, geez, I'm carrying that extra thing. And in my case, like like I said, I don't want to over dramatize here, because obviously I wasn't like huge. But for me, it felt uncomfortable, and having to carry that around. And when I do it now, like especially, like, I started wearing jogging pants quite some time ago, because wearing jeans was just not comfortable anymore, like having that belt poke in your belly. So those are the kind of differences, that you can feel and that you feel good about, like especially also the work that I tend to do now. It's, having a belly in the way. Like I look at some guys, I'm like, how do you do it? How do you do it? But yeah, so that's a big difference.
So what are the, I know you're not too concerned with like the outward appearance, right? Although you've made like a significant change with that. What have you noticed physically with your body, with your musculature, your leanness? Like before, and like especially now that you've gone through the transformation, like what do you see differently about your physique?
Well, look, the obvious, right? There's some weight gone for sure. You see a little bit of definition. I'm not looking for crazy big muscles. Definitely not. Like I said earlier, I was really initially only interested in losing that belly. But now I can sort of see like how the whole thing goes together. Like had I just focused on the belly without doing the workout, then I would have been a stick. And I could be a stick, like I was when I, like say, whatever, 25 years ago or something. I was pretty, I wouldn't say skinny, but I was definitely very slender, and that's not something I'd be interested in right now. That's not that appealing to me. So I think, building a little bit of a foundation with muscle, that makes a lot of sense now, because now you can take that weight off and there's something instead of it, at least, and it's not just all stick thin.